Hello, and welcome back to The Culture Shift with Rosalind Jovan, our podcast aimed at inspiring the leaders of tomorrow, brought to you by Black Enterprise. Here we like to review the success stories of today's tastemakers to encourage those who dare to dream big. Today, we're getting a fresh perspective on holistic health and wellness from the daughter of the late Dr. Sebi and owner of Sebi's Daughters LLC. She's here to speak on a possible Dr. Sebi documentary, getting a national holiday in her father's honor, and how she's leading the fight in promoting holistic health and wellness to the Black community. Join me in giving a warm welcome to Kellie Bowman. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm really excited to speak with you today and just, get an update on everything you have going on, your missions and initiatives that you're working towards, and find out how we can be of support.
Well,
So,
I'm just really happy to be here. I just want to state that this is an honor. Listen, I think my journey here is just so full and packed with such love from my father and my family. And where I'm going, I want to always know that I'm taking my father with me and this legacy. So I think one of the things that's always important when you think about who we are as people is how we identify ourselves through our parents' love.
most definitely. Most definitely. And so you are the owner of Sebi's Daughters LLC. And so you just touched on it, but how has it been carrying on your late father's legacy?
I think that's some very large shoulders. But as
Mhm.
his daughter, he was my first teacher, my first love. And so it's a pleasure because I come from him. I think a lot of people had a lot to say when he died, and a lot of challenges happened. But when you're a child of such a wonderful father, and I believe, we don't all have to be in the limelight to enjoy our father's love. And for me, I just always enjoyed our conversations, and it leads me to who I am today. I didn't know when I was younger, and the garden was my first teaching classroom that it would end up me being here. I didn't see this, but he did. And he would talk to me about it. And I just think I am honored to always be available to understand that honoring such a legacy, but honoring my family, my father, is just a great privilege.
Most definitely. And so you mentioned, your early teachings that started in the garden. So now, as the owner of Sebi's Daughters, tell us about your understanding of the mind body connection and its relationship in maintaining our overall health and wellness.
Well, over the years, as we can see, our level of consciousness about our nutrition has changed. The pyramid has changed. Our thoughts about food have changed. We even have a time in our life right now that I remember, I grew up in the 80s where we didn't have a true fight between GMO and organic. And now we have these fights. We have labeling now to show that more things cause cancer. So now the generation that's here today is more aware. And we have to tie into where this conversation started for me. And that was in the 80s, well, late 70s, 80s with my father. So when I think about what that meant and what I learned back then, true food is what's important. Whole foods are what's important. That's the basis of who we are. As a people, we grew up as growers. We talk about sharecropping. We were in the dirt, the very ground to find our nutrition, and it was beautiful. At this day and age, we have a problem with that. We are at a lack of nutrition. And so for Sabi's Daughters, I think what was most important to me is to continue my father's legacy by visiting and traveling the world to maintain that level of nutritional value for our clientele, for the communities that we know and love in our families. We see those who die all the time, and it's so sad. My condolences to all who have family members who have died of diabetes, heart disease, and other challenging issues for the Black community that we didn't have the information spread out enough. But in this day and age, these young ones and knew this I think this society right now is really leaning into the awareness of what we're eating and what we're doing. So I'm really excited about this journey, but my heart breaks because I would want to, maybe talk to my father about this progression and what it looks like. But your parents can't prepare you for everything that happens in life, but they can give you some very good tools to help you along the way.
Most definitely. And so when it comes to, what we're eating, what would you say, how beneficial are plant-based diets, and should that be a preferred approach to health?
You know what I really feel is everyone from different parts of the world have different thoughts about food. But identifying the foods that have the highest level of nutritional value added into your daily allowance is what the key is. I really feel that's the most important because I know a lot of people who are vegan who still have problems with sugar, salt, and dairy. And these are the very things that lead to unhealthy imbalances in the body. So we really want to have a list. So, Sebi's Daughters is, wanting to give you that in a list of foods that are the powerhouses. I call them my celebrities of the garden, and they are my favorite because they are I just feel like they are my superheroes. This is my comfort, but what it does for the body is it allow it to maintain what it needs. So finding that basic, amount of vegetables and whole foods and things of that nature to, add to your experience on a daily basis, because health is not getting any better. Mental health is on a rise for support. So we really want to tie into what we're eating nowadays.
So you talk about eating more nutritious foods and whole foods, and are there other ways that we can start to build habits that cater to a healthier lifestyle?
Yes. Listen, these conversations that we have online are important, but also we want to start in our kitchens. I don't know how many people sat around like I did when I was young. We would sit around and have conversations about food. But when you have a plan, you look in your cabinets, you look in your refrigerator, even in your secret cabinets in your bedroom, where you keep your junk food, and you have to decide, I want to make a change, so let's start here. So I'm going to take what I have and replace it with what I know can benefit my body. And that's over time. It's never overnight. But having a good conversation with family and friends about your goals for your body in the future, but always starting at home, looking at what you got and thinking about a plan to where you want to go is so important. You want to level up, so it has to start at home.
Yes. And how does your diet and what we're eating play a part when it comes to more natural and holistic ways in combating common health problems, be it headaches, diseases, body aches, weight gain, obesity, diabetes? How important is what we're eating, but are there even other approaches, natural and holistic approaches that we can consider when combating common ailments?
Yes, I like I said before, the foods that we choose entails who we are and how balanced we are. We found out during COVID that where we were prior to COVID, that we weren't as healthy as we thought.
Yeah.
So the conversation really got serious for a lot of people in this world during COVID. So we started to think about our immunity. We started to think about our nervous system. We were starting to think because we were at a lack of education about these things. So finding foods that have that. The celebrities of the garden, some of the ones I love are mentioned at sabysdaughters.com, but the list of foods that we have on there have been looked over and over again in different ways by different young people and strategize Dr. Sebi's food list to what it really means to have nutrition. Did we actually have those conversations? So, what kind of lifestyle changes can we start with? First, getting to know the vegetables, fruits, and grains that are out here and why that makes sense. Because the definition of true health is balance. And if you have an acidic diet, and you're going in a acidic journey, then why are you expecting to be mentally or physically healthy? How can we ask that? So then that means the education behind what we do and what we put in our mouth. We don't need a gun to kill ourselves. We don't need that. We don't need to take, we already go to these fast food places and injure ourselves little bit every day. Back in the day, understand this, early on, I am a nurse by trade, but doctors and nurses have not seen the amount of people going to the hospital for things they have now. And I attribute that to a lack of education and nutrition about ourselves because we are truly acidic and we didn't know it before COVID.
Hmm. And so when it comes to now, when it comes to living a more mindful lifestyle, what would you say is key?
Listen, taking a really honest look at who you are in that mirror. One of the things that I found important is, as I've grown up as a woman, is that color matters. I doubt if God put these colors here by chance. I think He gave us senses to be able to enjoy the world. And when you are thinking and you are aware of what goes on in your process every day, you're going to stop and think, hey, did I hydrate correctly? Maybe I need to do, and we all have that conscious thought, even when we hit our pillows at night. Did I do enough? And we found that maybe we could do a little bit better tomorrow. I would think that some of the things that are important to me is buying that time out for yourself. We've committed to so many things in our lives. We've committed to our children, our husbands, our jobs. We have yet to commit to ourselves. I say it's time. And I think a lot of people miss that point with my father. It wasn't the herbs that we saw out of him, it was the commitment to himself to make sure, even when they were down on him. Early in the 70s and 80s, it was not popular to be a vegan or talking about CMOS, but he was doing it. So it's the courage. And I wear the color pink because it was one of his favorites. And I see this color as courage. And so when I think about what we need to do, we need to get started. And we need to get started today. And committing to ourselves, loving, falling in love with our processes is important. And that's the start to me of a great and beautiful journey.
Hmm. And how what would you suggest when it comes to just taking some of those mindfulness moments during our day, despite how busy it can get?
So, a lot of people work from home, and I say, you know what? You work from home? How wonderful. 10 minutes for yourself, 10 minutes at a time, commercial breaks, taking a 5-minute walk, even away from your desk, just to talk to yourself in the mirror in the bathroom. You can buy out 5 minutes for yourself. It's so important. It will change your life. Just think about it, how much you will bank inside of yourself. Because remember, we are the sum of our experiences. If we continue to make our experiences about us, loving ourselves, it'll then be a pattern. And that's what you want. And that alone will change your health. It raises your immunity. And so it's not for someone else. This is for the betterment of you so you can help others. And that's the goal.
Most definitely. So now, when it comes to uh, properly even shedding light on your father, his legacy, and his contributions to the health and wellness space, just even serving as a pioneer in this space, uh, many of us are anxiously awaiting a documentary that was teased like 3 years ago. The last we even heard of it was like that it was finished, but then where is it? And that was coming from Nick Cannon, who had taken on the project after the passing of the rapper Nipsey Hussle, who was the first that we heard was working on this documentary.
Yes.
So, do you have an update on this Dr. Sebi documentary and its whereabouts?
Actually, at the time that it was going on, I really believe that it was something that was very important to, our family and Nick Cannon, but I just don't think it was the right time. I think there was a lot going on and it just all couldn't come together for what uh, possibly what we wanted it to be for all of us on both ends because that's a big story. It's a very complicated, challenging story to tell about such a man. And I believe it will have its right time. I believe that and when it's released, it's going to be released in the right time. Nothing's done by chance. I believe that the story is still moving forward in a way to when it's done, you guys will know about it first, and I look forward to it. I've been asked to continue that part of my journey in writing my own documentary, having my own published book about my feelings about this man that we know and love. But for that, I know it's coming, and when it's available, listen, I'm going to be so grateful. But I do want it to be told with care. I do want it to be told in a way that honors everyone, because unfortunately, not a lot of us were there the day he died. And so it's very personal. It's very intrusive. And for those who've had documentaries done, it's such an intrusive process that, I just want to know that it's right. So at that time it wasn't right. I think it's going to be great when it comes out.
And because of, we know the conversations that could come from having his story told, and even just, raising awareness around the things that he had been preaching for decades. Do you think there could be any pushback that could be causing the elongation of this documentary coming out?
Well, yeah, of course, there's always going to be pushback. I think social media has taught us about that, but also history has told us that. There are so many hidden gems about people in Black history that have happened. But the one thing I want to say is that there is such a spike in Black wellness and beauty that we see today that I think it's undeniable. You cannot trace back CMOS without the CMOS architect, Dr. Sebi. Now, I think it's going to be an interesting time, but I really believe we have enough momentum in this world, in our communities, to make this happen in such a positive way. One of the things that I'm working on is a Dr. Sebi Wellness Day. I feel that when we look at this multi-billion-dollar business out here with CMOS, I think we should really give some honor to the very man who started this journey for America, because our food sources someone has got to take a stand for what we're doing here with our nutrition, because we are not getting our food. And for that man to see so much in what we needed, and be ridiculed by any and every, and still stood up on what he found important for himself and his family and our communities, that deserves some honoring. So that's what I'm doing now. My goal is to have a Dr. Sebi Wellness Day, because we've all been impacted in some way by alkaline water. He was the first one to talk about that. The CMOS movement, just the mucus buildup and acidic imbalance of the body, and how we can bring that back up to a balance to make us whole. So I'm working on that as well with Sebi's daughters. I'm looking forward to that day.
And right, is there any way that we can support you in, establishing a national holiday for your father, as well as, the documentary that you said you were working on about yourself?
Yeah, listen, I'm always open to love and support through Sebi's daughters. Partnering with us is so important. I think that's the most important thing, is because this is not just for me or you. This is for our future. Our children should have these things in their history books, in their grocery stores. I always love when I go into a grocery store, there's a little cart for this little person. My goal is to impress upon as much support for them through what we do together to make it good for them. So I want to know that I'm doing something in history that makes such a difference for the young ones to come. That's my children, my grandchildren. I'm looking forward to that day where this is not a fight to do this. This is common information. Oh, yes, we know this and we know what it does. And this is how we are getting busy on our nutritional game. When do we have that conversation? Today?
Mhm.
When do we want to start? Today? So supporting us by, just constantly talking about educating our communities about good nutrition through a natural source, so important, especially for the Black farmers today. So important. I have conversations with them. It's so important to understand Black farmers are fighting the battle. We have so many young ones now, and they're fighting the battle to keep out GMO from their farms. But there's been a lot of warring there. So a war on food is what's happening, and that's the bigger picture. Even in our communities where there's insecurities in food, and, we have these deserts that happen, and I don't understand how this is happening without us not doing any. We have to do something
Yes,
together. Yeah.
most definitely. And you mentioned, even we all saw the shift after COVID where we were all more aware of, wow, we need to live healthier lifestyles, and it really starts from just a more holistic approach in what we're eating. And do
Yes.
you feel like because of the awareness that was created because of the pandemic, that your father has been getting more of the proper recognition for his groundbreaking contributions to the wellness space?
I do feel that. I thought it would be enough for him to go before the New York Supreme Courts in the 80s to show that this man has something to say and that it is viable. Sometimes when it doesn't come from the source that you want it to. It's not within your collective of friends or approaches or big companies or big pharma that it doesn't make sense. That is a lie. And I really believe that a man who would stand up on the principle of natural health would be supported. But now that he's, you know, fell away and to sleep, I believe that so many have uh, kind of jumped on this let's find out more about him, giving him his honor. And I so appreciate Kendrick Lamar. I appreciate Nipsey Hussle. Every time I hear one of these songs or people mention my dad, I get so excited because it's not just the man, but it's the courage to talk about things that matter in our way of living. We should not die by default without knowing how to educate ourselves about what we're doing. So I'm constantly, not only after he died, that I become more active with speaking, but I became more vigilant in wanting to do better for our communities. I love our communities, and the best way I can show love is to give you something that healed me and him, and that's love. And it's through food. It's through my celebrities of the garden and your celebrities of the garden. So I believe that this momentum I want to keep up until my day. And it's never when you're born, it's never really when you die. It's that work you do in the middle that changes all of us. So I'm hoping that I'm making um, the greatest decisions possible that he would be proud of as my dad, but as a woman in this race of trying to educate, I want to know that I've done something to be supportive. So that's going to be my goal until my last dash. Listen, until that last day, I'm gonna keep boxing. I really feel like I'm a superhero for natural healing, and I love it. I love it, and I'll take my ministry. So,
I'm here for it. Thank you so much for taking your time out to speak with us and share and give us an update on where you are and your mission and how we can be a support. We are all here for it and waiting and ready. And there's so much work to be done in our communities as it even relates to health. So thank you for being one of the brave souls to lead that fight.
thank you for having me. Thank you so much.